A billionaire's daughter, paralyzed in a tragic accident no one dares to talk about, hides from mirrors, the world, and even her own father, until a new maid walks into the one room she was told to avoid and sees the broken girl in a way no one else ever has, because she knows what it means to lose everything and live. The Prescott mansion sits in silence, draped in money, marble, and things no one speaks about. Behind a lavender door, 10-year-old Audrey Prescott lives like a shadow. Her legs haven't moved in 2 years. A jagged scar runs down the side of her face. She hasn't taken a photo since the accident. She won't look in mirrors. She barely speaks. Her father, Richard Prescott, keeps his distance, still wearing guilt like a second skin. And his fiancée, Camilla Hart, keeps the mansion immaculate, the image pristine, the narrative tightly controlled. No one enters Audrey's room without my permission, Camilla tells the staff, and no one does. But the mansion feels like it's holding its breath. Grief lingers in the hallways. Secrets settle into the walls like dust. Then, one quiet morning, the new maid, Kiana Johnson, takes the wrong hallway. She opens the forbidden door, and everything stills. She sees the girl in the wheelchair. She sees the scars, and instead of fear, or pity, or horror, she kneels. She whispers something soft, like a prayer. She speaks to Audrey as if she's whole. She doesn't look away. For the first time in 2 years, Audrey doesn't either. And just like that, something breaks. A silence begins to lift. But down the hall, Camilla hears the door open, and she's already on her way. Before we begin, if stories about courage, hidden truths, and unexpected heroes touch your heart, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you are watching from. Your support helps bring more powerful stories like this to life. Now let's dive back into the story. The air inside the Prescott mansion had a way of pressing down on people. Most of the staff moved quietly, like whispers in human form, afraid of leaving fingerprints on Camilla's perfectly polished world. But Kiana wasn't like the others. She didn't rush past Audrey's door like it was cursed. She didn't flinch when the child turned her face or tried to hide her legs under the blanket. Kiana moved slowly, gently, like she believed her being there was part of something bigger than a paycheck. She started showing up outside that lavender door more often. "I'm just dusting the hallway," she'd say to no one in particular. And while the other maids might have avoided eye contact, Kiana lingered. She replaced wilted lilies on the nightstand with fresh tulips from the garden. She smoothed Audrey's blankets with care, like tucking in her own child. She brought in light, speaking in soft tones, asking questions about books, dreams, memories. And Audrey began to answer. At first it was a glance, then a nod, then one day a smile, so small it might have been missed by anyone else. But Kiana saw it. Every word Audrey offered felt like a seed breaking through frozen soil. Each moment together was holy in a quiet way, as if God himself had stepped into the silence between them and whispered, "This is healing." Still, shadows moved in the halls. Camilla's heels began to click sharper against the marble floors. Her greetings turned colder, her gaze more watchful. Kiana felt it the way a lamb feels the wolf's breath nearby. One afternoon, while folding linens in the laundry room, Camilla appeared, dressed in crisp white. She looked like the mansion had come to life. "Stay away from Audrey," she said, voice smooth and sharp as glass. "She doesn't like visitors. She likes being alone." Kiana stood still, pressing her hands together in front of her. "With all due respect, ma'am, maybe she's not alone by choice." Camilla's eyes narrowed, like a challenge had been issued. "Excuse me." Kiana swallowed but didn't step back. "I just think." God didn't design any of us to live behind closed doors. Camilla's lips curled into something cold. You're here to clean. Nothing else. Kiana nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. But inside, she prayed, Lord, give me courage. Let me be light where this child has only known shadow. That evening, Audrey asked a question she hadn't asked in 2 years. Will you come back tomorrow? Kiana smiled, her voice soft. I'll be here if they let me. Audrey looked down at her lap, fingers twisting the edge of her blanket. They won't. Camilla doesn't like when people see me. Kiana knelt, placing a hand over the girl's. Sweetheart, Jesus sees you. Every moment, every scar. You're not invisible to him, and you're not invisible to me. A tear slipped down Audrey's cheek, and for the first time, she didn't try to hide it. But down the hallway, a door creaked open. Camilla was watching. The late afternoon sun filtered through the lace curtains, throwing soft patterns across Audrey's bed. Kiana was adjusting the girl's scarf, humming an old hymn under her breath, something about grace finding you even when you're lost. Audrey closed her eyes, soaking in the comfort. Then the scarf snagged slightly on her hair. Kiana leaned closer. Sorry, sweetheart. Let me fix. Her sleeve slipped. Audrey's eyes blinked open just as the fabric fell back from Kiana's wrist. It was faint, but unmistakable, pink and puckered, the shape of a flame licking up her skin. A burn, just like hers. Audrey's body stiffened. Her breath caught, heart hammering in her chest like it remembered something her mind had buried. Her fingers gripped the blanket as her eyes locked on Kiana's scar. Kiana saw it a moment too late. She froze. Then, as if the air had shifted, she gently tugged the sleeve back down and stepped away, like nothing had happened. But everything had. Audrey stared after her. The room suddenly too quiet, too bright. Had Kiana been there? Was she part of the fire? Did she know what happened that night? When Kiana left the room, Audrey didn't say goodbye. She couldn't. Her mind spun with memories and questions she tried to forget. For the first time in 2 years, she wanted to remember. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, fingers tracing the edge of her blanket, heart aching in a way that wasn't just physical. A prayer, fragile and uncertain, slipped from her lips. God, if you're really still here, I need to know the truth. Please help me see. Outside her room, shadows moved. Camilla stood at the top of the staircase, arms folded, watching the hallway where Kiana had just disappeared. Her lips pressed into a tight line, her eyes sharper than usual. She had noticed a shift. The girl was changing, eyes brighter, spirit stirring. And Kiana, she was the cause. Back in her suite, Camilla opened a drawer and pulled out a file. Inside, Kiana's application sat neatly on top. Her references, her background check. She flipped through it, expression unreadable. She's not just a maid. Camilla muttered to herself. She came here for something. The next morning, Kiana entered Audrey's room as usual, but the warmth between them had changed. It wasn't gone, but it was waiting, watching. Audrey looked at her differently now. She didn't smile, didn't speak. Not yet. Kiana sensed it but didn't push. She only sat near the window, humming softly, folding laundry with slow, steady hands. Waiting, because she knew the moment was coming. The moment the past would surface. And not everyone wanted it to. The storm rolled in slow and heavy, rumbling like a warning through the hills above the Prescott estate. Rain streaked down the tall windows, blurring the world outside. Inside, the mansion felt like it was holding its breath again, old walls creaking with secrets too long buried. Audrey sat by the window, watching thunderclouds swallow the last of the daylight. The wind howled down the chimney, and for the first time in weeks, She felt that old fear return, the kind that lived beneath her ribs since the fire. Then she heard it. Voices. Soft, urgent, down the hallway. She turned her chair toward the door and strained to listen. I promised her. Kiana's voice trembled. I promised her I'd tell the child the truth one day. Audrey's stomach dropped. Her fingers curled around the armrests. She's talking about me. Wheeling herself slowly into the hallway, she followed the sound of hushed voices toward the back staircase, where shadows moved like ghosts. There, just beneath the landing, Kiana stood half-hidden in the dark, her back turned, whispering to someone on the phone. Her voice cracked. Her shoulders shook. Audrey stopped, breath caught in her throat. Then Kiana turned. She wasn't surprised to see her. Her eyes were red, and her voice was gentle, gentler than Audrey had ever heard it. "Your mother," she said softly. "I knew her." Audrey blinked. "You what?" Kiana stepped closer, her hands clasped as if in prayer. "I worked here, years ago, before Camilla, before the staff changed. I was just 17, and I loved your mother like she was my own." Audrey's world tilted. Her chest tightened. "Were you there that night?" Kiana nodded, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "Yes, I was in the back corridor when the fire broke out. Smoke everywhere. Screaming. I ran in. I found you on the floor in your mother's arms." The words struck like lightning. "I carried you out," Kiana whispered. "I tried to go back for her, but—" Her voice cracked. The flames, they were too strong. Audrey's voice was barely a whisper. "You saved me." "I tried," Kiana said. "I still see her face. Every night. She made me promise I'd protect you, that you'd know the truth, that you wouldn't grow up believing the lies this house tells." Audrey's heart pounded. What lies? But before Kiana could answer, a soft, chilling voice sliced through the air behind them. "Well," Camilla said, stepping out from behind a stone pillar, "so the maid remembers." Her smile was as cold as the marble floors. Her arms folded neatly across her chest, but her eyes glinted with something sharper than rage, fear. "I wondered how long you'd keep your silence," she said, heel tapping slowly on the floor. "But I suppose old promises always resurface eventually." Audrey looked between them, suddenly aware that she'd just stepped into a story far older and darker than she ever imagined. The air crackled, and somewhere outside, thunder split the sky wide open. The mansion didn't speak, but it watched. Every creak of the floor, every shift in the curtains felt like a breath being held. After the confrontation under the staircase, something in the house had changed. Lines had been drawn, quietly, spiritually, and Kiana knew her time was running thin. She prayed before dawn that morning, kneeling beside her cot in the staff quarters. "Lord, guide my hands. If there's truth buried here, let me find it. Let it be for Audrey's healing, not just her hurt." Later that afternoon, while Camilla was out hosting a luncheon, Kiana slipped into Richard Prescott's study. The air smelled of old cigars and polished wood. Thick curtains muffled the storm still raging outside. On the desk, carelessly left out, was a folder half open. She shouldn't have touched it, but she did. Inside, insurance papers, fire assessments, emails. One subject line caught her eye. Prescott Foundation Biolab Safety Incident. Kiana's heart stopped. She flipped through the pages, her breath shallow. Internal emails between Camilla and someone at a lab. Notes about a secret project. Mentions of exposure risks. A chilling message at the bottom of one thread. If she exposes this, everything collapses. Then the name, Prescott Foundation Biolab. Over and over. It wasn't just a lab. It was owned by Richard, managed by Camilla, and it seemed tied to the night of the fire. Chemical reports, storage logs, ignored safety violations, all dated just days before Audrey's world burned down. Kiana's hand shook, but she snapped photos with her phone. She made copies. She hid them in the pages of her Bible, tucked between the Psalms. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness. Daniel 2 verse 22. Meanwhile, Audrey was changing too. She asked to be wheeled to the garden. She asked for books, for music. She even asked questions about her mother. When Richard visited briefly that evening, she looked him in the eyes for the first time in months. "Daddy, what happened that night?" she asked. He flinched like the words struck bone. "I don't remember everything," he muttered, eyes darting toward the hallway. Camilla said. "Camilla says a lot," Audrey interrupted softly. He looked at her like seeing her for the first time. "You sound like your mother." Audrey smiled. "That's what I'm hoping." But not everyone welcomed her awakening. From the upper balcony, Camilla watched the two of them, her hand clenched tight around the banister. She could feel control slipping, thread by thread, and if Audrey kept digging, everything she'd built could go up in flames again. That night, the air in the Prescott mansion felt strange, heavier than usual, like something unspoken was waiting to break loose. Rain had stopped, but thunder still growled in the distance, a low warning beneath the floorboards. Audrey lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the scarf Kiana had fixed for her gently tucked around her shoulders. She hadn't seen her all day. No gentle knock at the door, no flowers, no soft hymns, just silence. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and then total darkness. Audrey sat up straighter in her chair, heart starting to race. A moment later, a scream pierced the stillness. Not loud, but sharp. Female. Close. Audrey didn't think. She moved. She wheeled into the hallway, hands shaking on the rims of her chair. The mansion was black as pitch, the emergency lights still off. The air smelled faintly of smoke, but no fire, no flames. Just the illusion of it. "Kiana!" Her voice echoed into the dark. "Kiana!" She rolled forward, turning the corner slowly, when something crunched beneath her wheel. A metal pail, bleach bottle, cleaning cloths, all scattered across the floor. The bucket was overturned, the hallway empty, but on the wall beside it, something made Audrey freeze. A single word, smeared across the wallpaper in what looked like gray ash. Safe. Only nothing felt safe anymore. The silence pressed in closer. The walls of the mansion suddenly seemed taller, colder, like they were watching her. She reached up with trembling hands and clutched the scarf tighter. Her voice broke into a whisper. "Where are you?" And then, a creak above her. Audrey turned her head slowly toward the grand staircase. Camilla stood there, draped in shadow. One hand rested lightly on the railing. The other held a glass of wine, and her smile was too calm, too pleased. "Audrey," she said softly, as if nothing at all had happened. "What are you doing out here so late?" Audrey didn't answer, because the real question was, where was Kiana? And who, or what, had silenced her? The storm outside had ended, but inside the house, a darker one was just beginning. The envelope was tucked deep beneath the cushion of Audrey's wheelchair, folded thin and worn soft at the edges. She found it just after sunrise, when sleep wouldn't come and the house still held its breath. Kiana's handwriting stared up at her, shaky but clear. "If anything happens to me, the truth is behind your mother's portrait." Audrey's breath caught. Her fingers tightened around the paper. The fear that had haunted her for 2 years was suddenly matched by something stronger. Resolve. She wheeled herself down the corridor, heart pounding in rhythm with every turn of her wheels. The study door creaked as it opened. The room smelled like aged leather and cigar smoke, the scent of her father's shame. The portrait loomed above the fireplace. Her mother, young, radiant, alive. Her smile captured mid-laughter, like she had known joy. Audrey reached up, her fingers brushing the gilded frame. She found the latch behind the bottom corner, almost invisible. A click. The portrait tilted forward with a soft groan. Behind it, a steel vault. Her hands trembled as she typed in the numbers etched faintly on the back of the envelope, 1111. Her birthday. The lock turned. The door opened. Inside, layers of truth, buried and burning. A flash drive. A stack of documents, each stamped confidential. A photo faded but undeniable. Her mother and Camilla, side by side in lab coats, inside the Prescott Biolab. At the bottom, a sealed letter, addressed to her. Audrey unfolded it with trembling fingers. My sweet girl, if you're reading this, I wasn't able to protect you from what I feared most. Camilla and we disagreed about the lab's direction. She pursued power. I begged for safety. She called it sacrifice. But you were never meant to pay the price. Audrey wiped her tears and plugged the flash drive into her father's laptop. A video loaded, grainy at first, then her mother's voice, arguing with Camilla. You're endangering lives, her mother shouted. We shut it down now. Camilla's voice, calm and ice-cold. You always were too sentimental. The footage shifted, a hand disabling a failsafe. A spark, an explosion, flames devouring the lab. And then, Kiana, running in, screaming, lifting Audrey from smoke and ash, carrying her out. Audrey's face, limp and burning. It hadn't been an accident. It had been a cover-up. A slow creak echoed behind her. The study door. Audrey turned. Camilla stood in the doorway, her eyes locked on the screen. Her voice low and poisonous. You should have never seen that. Audrey backed up instinctively, breath caught in her throat. Camilla stepped closer, her smile ablaze. You took your mother's legs the night of the fire, she whispered. Her eyes glinted. Shall I take your life too? Audrey's hands shook on her wheels. Her heart screamed a single prayer. Jesus, be near. The screen flickered. The door stayed open, and Camilla stepped forward. The first light of morning cut through the gray clouds like a quiet promise. For once, the Prescott mansion didn't feel like it was holding its breath. It felt like it was bracing for impact. Tires crunched up the gravel drive. A black SUV rolled to a stop, and the front door flew open before the engine even cut off. Kiana stepped out, bruised, bandaged, but unbroken. She moved with purpose, pain in her body, but fire in her spirit. And behind her, 2 uniformed officers followed, their expressions unreadable but alert. Kiana didn't knock. She stormed into the foyer, her voice echoing like thunder through the marble halls. Richard Prescott, she called out, loud and clear. You need to see something. Audrey, still in her wheelchair near the study, turned sharply. Her eyes widened as Kiana peered alive. Whole, fierce. Richard stepped out of his bedroom, robe half-tied, confusion etched across his face. What is this? What's going on? Kiana didn't answer. She raised the flash drive like a sword. Watch. In the center of the grand foyer, she plugged it into the television mounted above the fireplace. The video began to play. The argument, the sabotage, the fire, Audrey's limp body, Camilla's hand disabling the system, the explosion. Audrey couldn't breathe, but she didn't look away. Richard watched, pale and trembling, his eyes flickering like the flames in the footage. When it ended, he crumpled to his knees, his hands covering his face. My God, he sobbed. My God, what have I done? Footsteps echoed from the upper floor. Camilla, dressed immaculately as always, but her smile was gone. Her face was stone. She saw the screen, the officers, Richard on his knees, Audrey staring, and still she didn't flinch. She turned to walk away, toward the service exit. "Stop her," Kiana ordered. The officers moved fast, catching her just as she reached the hallway. Camilla didn't fight. She only looked at Audrey as the cuffs clicked shut around her wrists. Bending down, she leaned close, her breath cold against the girl's cheek. "Fires," she whispered, "don't always need flames." But before Audrey could answer, Kiana stepped between them. "Stay away from her." Camilla stared for a heartbeat, then smiled. The kind of smile that meant the story wasn't over. As she was led out of the house, silence filled the foyer. No one spoke. No one moved. And for the first time in 2 years, the silence didn't suffocate. It healed. Audrey reached for Kiana's hand, held it tight, both of them trembling, both of them standing, one in a chair, one on shaking legs, but standing just the same. Outside, the wind shifted. Inside, something sacred settled. Truth had burned its way through the mansion, and what remained was light. The Prescott mansion still stood, but everything inside it had changed. Gone were the hushed footsteps and closed doors. Gone were the heavy silences and the secrets that had curled into the walls. The house breathed again, windows open, sun pouring in, laughter echoing down the once-haunted hallways. They weren't rebuilding with marble or money. They were rebuilding with truth, with therapy sessions that left tissues soaked and hearts lighter, with grace-filled apologies whispered through broken voices, with meals shared at one table, not served behind separate doors. Richard Prescott, no longer a ghost of a father, showed up every day. He took Audrey to doctor's appointments, to physical therapy, and to the park just to feel the sun on their faces. He dismantled the corrupt Prescott Foundation, brick by brick, and used its fortune to build a new trust, one in his wife's name, for families hurt by corporate greed. "I can't undo what I allowed," he told the press, "but I can redeem it." And he meant it. Kiana never returned to the staff quarters. She didn't need to. She moved into the guest wing, but became something more than a guest. She became family, not because of a job title, but because of love that had passed every test fire could bring. Audrey, now 12, didn't hide anymore. She wore her scars like sacred ink, her wheelchair like a badge of survival. Some days were still hard, but they weren't hopeless. Not anymore. One evening, as dusk painted the sky in gold and lavender, Audrey rolled out onto the patio where Kiana sat reading, wrapped in a soft green sweater. "I made something," Audrey said shyly, holding out a drawing. Kiana took it with gentle hands. It was crayon and construction paper, bold and bright, a maid in green, a girl in a wheelchair, hands clasped beneath a wide blue sky and a golden sun. At the top, written in careful print, "My second chance." Tears welled in Kiana's eyes. Audrey leaned close, her voice soft and steady. "You saved me then, and you saved me again." Kiana pulled her into a hug, resting her cheek on Audrey's hair. "God gave us both a second chance, baby girl," she whispered, "and this time we're walking it together." The wind rustled the leaves above them. Somewhere a bird sang. And for the first time since the fire, Audrey didn't just hear life. She felt it, because sometimes the person the world overlooks becomes the light that saves a life. And sometimes the girl hidden behind a door becomes the flame that burns the truth free.
If this story moved you, even just a little, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. And tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone whose kindness changed your life? Your story might be the light someone else needs.